I moved to this new city a few weeks ago. As a freelance graphic designer, my apartment was empty, and I needed to furnish it on a tight budget. I wasn't new to secondhand shopping, but Craigslist felt different here. That evening, I was scrolling through listings. I saw an antique chair that caught my eye. The price was ridiculously low. The seller's message made me uneasy. He wanted to meet late at night. I thought about it and finally agreed. Maybe I was just paranoid. It was a chair, after all. I arrived at the house that evening. The neighborhood was quiet, the streetlights flickering. I knocked on the door, my heartbeat quickening. The door creaked open, and a man stood there, his face mostly in shadow. He looked me over like he was sizing me up. "Come in," he said in a low voice. I stepped inside. The room was cluttered, filled with old books and odd artifacts. I felt a chill in the air. It wasn't just cold, it was like something was watching me. I glanced around, trying to shake off the feeling that something was wrong. Perhaps I was overreacting. I asked him about the chair. He nodded and pointed. "It's in the back." I followed him through a narrow hallway, the floor creaking with each step. As we entered the back room, the atmosphere shifted. The chair sat in the center, surrounded by strange trinkets. "It's special," he said, his eyes gleaming. I paid him and left, but I couldn't shake off the unease. That night, I started getting texts from an unknown number. "Return it," they warned. My heart raced every time my phone buzzed. Was it a prank? I thought about blocking the number but hesitated. Was I just being dramatic? Around midnight, I woke up to a loud crash. I rushed to the living room, but nothing was broken. Just the chair, sitting quietly in the moonlight. Cold sweat dripped down my back. I could feel that familiar sensation of being watched. I turned, and in the mirrors, I saw reflections that didn't belong to me. I blinked, and it was gone. I wasn't sure what I was experiencing, but I knew it was tied to that chair. Maybe it was just my imagination, or maybe I had brought something bad into my life. I thought about returning it, but doubt crept in. It felt too late. Then, one night, I heard a voice whispering from the chair. I couldn't make out the words, but it felt urgent. "You shouldn't be here." I turned to look, and the chair was empty, but fear surged through me. Was I losing my mind? Or was something dark pulling me in? I didn't know. The whisper left me shaken. I tried to convince myself it was all in my head, but something lingered. Everything felt wrong, and I had to do something. That chair became a nightmare that I never asked for. I knew I shouldn't have kept it, but I was too scared to let it go. Every shadow felt alive, waiting for me to make a move. Would I ever be free of it? I wanted answers, but deep down, I wondered if I really wanted to know the truth. The next morning, I made a decision. I couldn't live like this anymore. I had to find the seller and return the chair. When I searched for the listing, my stomach dropped. It was gone. No trace, no evidence it ever existed. Panic welled up inside me. How could I let myself get caught up in this? I remembered the seller's face, but it was hard to recall details. His shadowy features blurred in my mind. Maybe I could ask the neighbors. I took a deep breath and knocked on the door next to mine. An older woman answered. "Can I help you?" she asked, curiosity flickering in her eyes. I hesitated but pushed through. "Have you ever heard of a man selling an antique chair around here?" She frowned. "Antique? I don't know. You should be careful about what you buy online. This neighborhood can be strange." I nodded, uneasy. "Yeah, I've noticed that." After a brief conversation, she went back inside, and I turned back to my apartment. I decided to take a break from the chair. I couldn't have it in my space, at least not for now. I shoved it into the corner and tried to focus on work. But then something caught my eye. I noticed a small card slipped between the seat cushions. I pulled it out, dusting it off. It read, "Find me." A chill crept up my spine. What did that mean? Dismissing it as a prank, I tried to concentrate on my designs, but anxiety ate away at my focus. Every sound felt amplified, and the house felt smaller, almost claustrophobic. I kept glancing at the chair, almost expecting it to move. Later that evening, I decided to step outside, hoping to clear my head. As I strolled through the neighborhood, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being followed. I glanced over my shoulder but saw nothing. Then, from across the street, I saw a figure watching me. My heart raced as I quickened my pace. Was it the seller? Did he want the chair back? I didn't want to stick around to find out. I turned into a small alley, hoping to lose whoever was following me. As I rounded the corner, I found myself in front of an old antique store I hadn't noticed before. The sign creaked, swinging slightly in the breeze. Against my better judgment, I walked inside. The shop was dimly lit, filled with an array of dusty relics. My heart sank as I spotted a row of chairs some similar to mine. I approached the nearest one, and a tingle ran down my spine. Something about this place felt too familiar. Then I noticed a mirror hanging on the wall. My reflection stared back at me, but behind me in that reflection stood the figure from earlier, eyes wide and watching. I turned quickly, but nobody was there. I rushed to the exit, panic rising. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. I burst through the door and nearly crashed into someone. "Hey!" A voice called, but I didn't stop. I had to get home. I couldn't think straight. That night, I locked the doors tight. I wanted to forget all of it. But as I looked around my apartment, I realized the chair wasn't sitting quietly anymore. It was facing me, almost expectantly. Then my phone buzzed. I grabbed it, heart in my throat. The same unknown number flashed on the screen. "It's watching you." I staggered back. The chair, the figure in the mirror, and the messages, the pieces were fitting together. But what was the complete picture? I couldn't shake the feeling of dread that settled over me. I stared at the chair, now seemingly alive in the dim light of my apartment. It felt like it was waiting for me to make a move. I didn't want to be anywhere near it. As I paced the room, my mind spiraled. Who had sent that message? Was it the seller? Could it be someone else? Questions darted in and out like fireflies, leaving me with nothing but confusion. I needed to uncover the truth. Suddenly, my curiosity got the better of me. I grabbed my laptop and sat on the edge of my bed. I searched for the antique store I had stumbled upon earlier. Maybe they had more information, or perhaps someone would know about the seller. The flow of anxiety pulsed through me as I clicked through search results, feeling a little reassured with each passing moment. But that reassurance evaporated quickly. I noticed something odd. The store's name didn't show up online anywhere. Not a single mention in any directory. It was as if it had never existed. My breath caught in my throat. How could a store this close to my home vanish without a trace? I ran my fingers through my hair. I needed to think. I forced myself to brew some herbal tea, hoping it would bring my racing thoughts down. As the kettle hummed, I noticed a flicker in the corner of my eye. The chair seemed to sway gently, though there was no wind. I froze, watching the legs shift just slightly against the wood floor. No. This is all in my head. I told myself. I turned away and forced myself to focus on something else. I grabbed my phone, checking the unknown number again, but no new messages appeared. I dropped it on the table, feeling a sense of defeat wash over me. Just then, I remembered the card. Find me. What did that even mean? I felt a weird compulsion to search for answers. A little voice in the back of my mind whispered warnings, but I pushed it aside. I needed to figure out who the seller was, and I needed to do it tonight. With a deep breath, I decided to venture outside again. Maybe I could retrace my steps to the alley where I found the antique shop. I pulled on a jacket, heart hammering, and slipped out of my apartment. The night air was chilly, sending shivers down my spine. I walked quickly, keeping my eyes peeled for any signs of the seller or even that mysterious figure. My instincts screamed at me to turn back, but I pressed on. As I neared the alley, my senses heightened. I could swear I heard whispers, faint but insistent. I scanned the shadows, searching for their source. Just as I reached the entrance of the alley, I saw him. The seller stood there, leaning against a lamppost, his features cloaked in darkness. I stepped back, heart racing, then stumbled as I caught the edge of the sidewalk. The man straightened, and his eyes locked onto mine. I couldn't move. "Looking for something?" he asked, his voice smooth yet unsettling. The air crackled with tension. I was terrified but also drawn to the man. "I'm looking for you," I managed to stammer. His smile widened, almost predatory. "You found me. Now, tell me, do you truly want to know the truth?" Everything seemed to freeze, that question hanging between us. I felt an impulse to run, to flee back home, but there was something in his gaze that rooted me to the spot. I couldn't tell if I was safe or in danger. And just like that, he took a step closer. I could barely breathe. Then I heard a loud crack from the direction of my apartment. The ground seemed to shift beneath me as I stood frozen, caught between two terrifying realities. The night was suddenly too quiet. My heart raced as I strained to make sense of the crack I had heard. It echoed, unnerving in its clarity, slicing through the tension that hung between us. I risked a glance back toward my apartment but was met only with the darkened outline of the building. "Did you hear that?" I whispered, my voice barely breaking the silence. The seller tilted his head, his expression shifting from amusement to curiosity. "Hear what?" The truth tends to drown out everything else. I felt my knees weaken. Before I could finish, he stepped closer, invading my space. "You're afraid, aren't you?" I took a shaky step back, fighting the urge to flee. "I just want to know why you're doing this." "Why me?" His smile faltered slightly. "Sometimes, the truth chooses you." He waved his hand as if dismissing my concerns. "As for your apartment, it's part of the game." "Game?" The word sent chills skimming down my spine. "What do you mean?" He pointed toward the flickering lamp behind him. "You're here. And yet, something else is waiting for you at home. You may want to check on it." I hesitated, glancing back at the alley. The shadows seemed to shift and deepen, urging me to leave. I was caught between the dark allure of the cellar and the strange, pulsing dread of my home. "Don't let your fears hold you back," he taunted, an edge of excitement in his voice. "Truth can be enlightening." Before I could respond, I turned on my heel and sprinted back the way I came. The streetlights blurred as I raced toward my apartment, every shadow feeling like a ghost tailing me. The crack loomed in my mind. What if something had happened? What if someone was in my home? Everything felt like a blur as I reached my door. With shaky hands, I fumbled for my keys, and the sound of metal clinking rang out as I dropped them. "Just pick them up," I told myself, forcing my breath to steady. I pushed the door open, stepping inside. My apartment felt different, too quiet even for the late hour. The chair sat untouched in the corner, but I still sensed a disturbance in the air. I stepped further in, anxiety gnawing at me. Then it hit me. A faint scent, almost like incense, wafted through the air. It wasn't too strong, but it was enough to catch my attention. "Hello?" I called out, but the only reply was the echo of my voice. I glanced toward the back of the apartment, realizing my phone was still on the table. I needed it to contact someone. As I moved deeper into the space, a memory flickered, the card with the words "Find me" still gripped tightly in my mind. Suddenly, my phone buzzed again, and I rushed to grab it. As I flipped it over, my breath caught. There was a new message from that unknown number. That S when I saw it. The message read, "I hope you enjoyed your visit. Next time, come prepared." Panic surged within me. Who sent this? What did they mean? As I fumbled for answers, I heard a creak behind me, and my heart dropped. Someone was in the house. I froze, every muscle in my body tight with fear. The creaking sound came again, a slow, deliberate shift that sent chills racing up my spine. My instincts screamed for me to run, but my legs felt like they were stuck in concrete. "Is anyone there?" I whispered, my voice barely breaking the silence. I strained to hear any response, but all I got was the soft rustle of fabric. Then I noticed a shadow flitting across the far wall, near the kitchenette. Someone was definitely moving around. I took a step back towards the door, my heart pounding like a war drum. I had to see who it was. My mind raced. Could it be a stranger? Or had the seller sent someone? I grabbed the nearest object I could find, a heavy ceramic bowl, and held it tightly, ready to defend myself if necessary. Gathering what little courage I had left, I slowly turned and peered into the small kitchen area. Nothing. The space was empty, but something felt wrong. The air, thick with unease, made me want to flee. I took another step forward, forcing myself to check the next room. This was my home, and I wouldn't let fear control me. As I crept down the narrow hallway, I listened intently. I heard a low whisper. It felt like it came from my bedroom. I bit my lip hard enough to taste blood, then steeled myself for what lay ahead. It felt like an eternity as I inched toward the door. Just before I reached for the knob, I heard a voice I recognized. The words were muffled, but I could make out one clear phrase: "She has to remember." Confused and terrified, I opened the door. My bedroom was dimly lit by the faint glow of my desk lamp. My heart sank at what I saw. There, sitting on my bed, was a figure draped in a dark hooded cloak. "Who are you?" I barely managed to voice, my throat dry. The figure turned slowly, the shadows obscuring their face. "You must not forget what you've learned," they said softly. It was spoken like a secret, each word heavy with significance. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but the presence was eerily calming. "What do you mean?" "It's all part of the game. To find the truth, you must confront your fears," they replied. "The seller knows you." The seller. My breath hitched in my throat. My mind churned with questions. Why was this happening? How did they connect? Before I could ask anything more, the figure raised their hand. A flash of light erupted, illuminating the room momentarily. It felt like a shock coursing through my body. In that instant, I saw something, a reflection, a glimpse of myself in a different time or place. Images flooded my mind before everything turned dark. I stumbled back, paralyzed by the overwhelming sensations. Then, the figure was gone. The space felt empty again, save for the lingering scent of incense. I blinked, trying to make sense of everything I had just witnessed. But before I could recover, my phone buzzed once more. It was another message. "She is closer than you think." I felt a chill ripple down my spine. I was being pulled deeper into this mystery, and I wasn't sure if I was ready to confront the truth. One thing was clear: I had to uncover what really connected me to the seller and the cloaked figure. With newfound urgency, I took a deep breath and began piecing it together. The next morning, I realized I couldn't ignore the situation any longer. I needed answers. The message from last night gnawed at me. Who was the "she" they referred to? And what was my connection to the seller? I decided to pay a visit to the seller's house, the one listed on the Craigslist ad. My hands trembled as I approached the address, the chill of the morning air matching the unease creeping over me. The house was a modest two-story structure with peeling paint and an overgrown yard. It looked abandoned, but I knew the seller was still around. With every step toward the door, doubts clouded my mind. What if the cloaked figure was connected to the seller? What if I was walking into a trap? I took a deep breath and knocked. There was a long pause before an elderly woman answered. Her silver hair was pulled back into a tight bun, and her piercing blue eyes seemed to see right through me. "Yes?" she asked, her voice steady but wary. "I'm here about the Craigslist listing," I said, my voice wavering. I wanted to know more about it. She studied me closely. "I prefer if you just leave things as they are," she replied, her tone abrupt. I wasn't about to back down. "I can't," I insisted. "Something strange is happening. I need to uncover the truth." The woman's expression softened slightly, but her resolve remained. "Sometimes the truth is more dangerous than ignorance. You have no idea what you're getting into." "Danger?" Her warning only fueled my determination. Then, something in her eyes shifted. "Fine. Come inside." I stepped into the dimly lit living room, filled with antiques and old books. The air was thick with the scent of dust. As I sat down, she handed me a small, leather-bound journal. "This belonged to the previous owner," she said. "It holds secrets. Read it, but be careful." I opened the journal gingerly. The pages were worn and crammed with handwritten notes and sketches. Strange symbols filled the margins. My heart raced as I realized this wasn't an ordinary journal. It felt ancient, almost alive. Who was the previous owner? I asked, trying to piece it all together. She hesitated, then whispered, "A seeker. Like you." Her eyes flickered to something behind me, and I turned, feeling a chill run down my spine. Nothing was there, just the shadows drifting in the corners of the room. "What do you mean?" I pressed. "This place has a history of those who seek the truth. Some never return," she replied, her voice losing its firmness. Panic surged through me, and I grabbed the journal tightly. "What happened to them?" But before she could respond, I heard a sound from the hallway, a faint whisper calling my name. I glanced back at the woman, but she was stoic, her expression unreadable. "Go," she said, her voice low. "You must confront your fears." As I stood to leave, the room trembled slightly, a soft hum vibrating through the air. I sensed an urgency rising within me. Just as I reached the door, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in a mirror on the wall, a blurry image of the cloaked figure appearing behind me. I spun around, but it was gone. Heart racing, I stepped outside, the journal tucked under my arm. Now more than ever, I had to understand what the seller knew. I had awakened something within me, and it was time to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. As soon as I stepped outside, the chill of the morning air hit me like a cold slap. My mind raced with questions. Was the cloaked figure real? I could still see its outline in my mind. I glanced back at the house, half expecting the old woman to wave me back. But she didn't. Instead, the door closed slowly, creaking, like it was guarding secrets I was meant to uncover. I hurried down the path, the journal clutched tightly in my hands. I needed a place to sit and dig into its pages. I found a small park nearby, overgrown and forgotten like the house. I settled on a bench, the kind that looked like it hadn't seen a visitor in years. I opened the journal, setting the first page in front of me. The handwriting was messy, almost frantic. My pulse quickened as I read snippets. "The seeker will face trials, the cloaked figure, trust no one." Each line made my skin crawl. The previous owner had known something. Something important. Suddenly, my concentration broke. I felt someone watching me. I looked up, scanning the park. There was an elderly man sitting on a nearby bench. He had a weathered face and a distant look in his eyes, but something about him felt eerily familiar. He stared intently at me, and a shiver ran down my spine. I tried to ignore him and refocused on the journal. The pages turned easier now, and I stumbled upon a symbol that matched one on the page margin. It looked like a twisted spiral. Next to it was a message, "Find the portal." The words gripped me, but the man's gaze was unyielding. I glanced up again, and he was now standing. He made no attempt to approach, but there was urgency in his stance. He pointed toward the edge of the park. My heart raced. Did he know something I didn't? "Hey!" I called out, but he turned and walked away without a word. I bit my lip, torn between curiosity and fear. Should I follow him? In that moment, I noticed a rustle in the bushes behind him. It sounded like whispering, fragmented voices mumbling my name. My heart hammered against my chest. I couldn't just sit there. What now? I muttered to myself. I hesitated a brief moment before following the man. He was quick, gliding between the trees as though he blended into the shadows. I pushed myself to keep pace. My mind flooded with questions again. What portal? Who was the cloaked figure? I could feel the journal's pages burning a hole in my bag, almost demanding to be read. The man slipped through a narrow path, and I hurried after him. Just as I rounded a bush, he disappeared around a corner. I was almost on him when suddenly my foot hit something hard on the ground. I stumbled and fell, the journal slipping from my grasp. It landed open on the grass, and I scrambled to snatch it back up. That's when I saw it, a photograph tucked inside the journal. The image showed a group of people, all standing around a large stone archway, but it was the cloaked figure lurking at the back that made my blood run cold. It was the same figure I had seen before. Before I could wrap my mind around what I was looking at, I heard footsteps approaching. Someone was coming. Panic surged again. I had to hide. With my heart racing, I jumped to my feet, adrenaline pushing me to duck behind a large tree as the whispering voices grew louder. They were calling me again, but I didn't understand. I just needed to find out who the cloaked figure was before it was too late. As I pressed my back against the rough bark of the tree, I held my breath. My heart raced as the footsteps drew nearer. I peered out from my hiding spot, half expecting to see the elderly man again. Instead, it was a trio of figures moving quietly through the park. They wore dark clothing, their faces shadowed by wide-brimmed hats. This felt wrong. I watched as they whispered among themselves, glancing around nervously. I strained to hear their words, but all I caught was a name, the Seeker. Was that me? I tried to back away, but a twig snapped beneath my foot, breaking the silence. The three figures froze, turning towards my direction. Panic flooded my senses. I ducked back behind the tree, my mind scrambling for a plan. Should I run? I could feel the journal pressing against my chest, as if urging me to act. I needed to know what they wanted and if they were connected to the cloaked figure. Suddenly, one of the figures broke away from the group and started moving toward my hiding spot with purpose. My heart raced as he got closer. I had to stay hidden. I crouched down lower, hoping the tree would shield me. The man paused just a few feet away. "We know you're here," he called out, his voice low but clear. "We're not here to hurt you." The words hung in the air, contradicting the tension that crackled between us. I hesitated, weighing my options. If they were looking for me, maybe I couldn't just wait to be found. I took a deep breath and slowly emerged from my hiding place, the journal clutched tightly in my hands. "Who are you?" I demanded, trying to sound braver than I felt. They exchanged glances, and the first man stepped forward. "We're looking for you. The journal, it's important. It holds the key to understanding everything." Everything about what? I shot back, unable to mask the fear in my voice. I felt exposed, caught in a web of uncertainty. About the cloaked figure, the portal, all of it, he replied, a hint of urgency creeping into his tone. We've been searching for you ever since you opened the journal. With his words, I remembered the hurried message inside, and a shudder ran through me. What do you mean? Why me? Because you've awakened something, he said, glancing nervously over his shoulder. Something that was meant to remain hidden. You're not safe here. Before I could respond, the other two figures moved closer, their expressions serious. We need to go. Now, the second man urged, glancing back towards the path we had traveled. I felt a surge of hesitation. Who were they? Could I trust them? The fear of the cloaked figure and the unknown still clutched at my gut. Wait, I said, tell me everything first. But as if scripted, the sound of hurried footsteps echoed from the distance. They were coming. I could feel the urgency in the air thickening, pressing against my chest. Suddenly, everything felt too close, too quick. There was no more time for questions. Come on. The first man hissed, and before I could protest again, he grabbed my arm, pulling me into the shadows. As we ran, the whispers in the park grew louder, wrapping around us, a chilling reminder of the secrets I had yet to discover. And just as I thought we might escape, a familiar figure stepped out from the trees, the cloaked figure staring right at us. My breath caught in my throat. I had run away from one danger, only to stumble straight into another. The cloaked figure loomed before us, the shadows dancing around it like restless spirits. I froze, my feet unwilling to move as fear anchored me in place. The trio beside me reacted like synchronized dancers, they took a step back, eyes wide. Stay behind me, the first man ordered without breaking his gaze from the figure. I knew I shouldn't argue, but curiosity ripped through my fear. Who are you? I shouted at the cloaked figure. What do you want? It stepped closer, its presence swallowing the dim light of the park. I could feel the weight of my journal pressing against me, a reminder of the mystery I was being thrust into. The figure's head tilted slightly, and though it remained silent, I felt a heavy stare piercing through the fabric of the cloak. They don't know you, do they? Came a voice, smooth and chilling. It echoed in my mind, and for a moment, I almost believed I could hear my own thoughts swirling within those words. What do you mean? I snapped, anger rising inside me. Who are you? The figure shifted, and from the depths of the cloak came a gloved hand. I am not your enemy, seeker. I seek only the truth. And you have chosen to awaken it. I looked over my shoulder at the three figures. Their faces were strained, a mix of fear and determination. What truth? I pressed, needing something concrete. The taller man stepped forward, steadying his stance. You're not just a seeker. You're a catalyst. The journal, its pages were meant to be sealed, but you opened the door. I don't want any part of this. I protested, the panic bubbling to the surface again. Too late, the figure replied, its voice flowing like smoke. You've already made your choice. I felt the weight of their gazes, the urgency palpable between us. The cloaked figure stood still, a silent impending storm keeping everything else at bay. Just then, the whispering voices returned, growing louder, more insistent. The trio turned their heads toward the sound, alarm flashing across their faces. We don't have much time, one of the men urged. If the others catch up to us, it won't just be you they seek, they want all of us. Who are the others? I asked, my heart pounding. Followers, the cloaked figure answered, its tone low and dangerous. Those who worship the darkness. They believe you hold the key to an ancient power, one that can shift the balance between realms. A shiver ran down my spine. I didn't want any power. I just wanted things to go back to normal. Before I could consider my next move, the sound of footsteps thundered closer, breaking through the trees. The trio huddled around me. "We're running out of options," the second man urged. "We have to go, now." They started moving, urging me along, but my feet felt heavy. I caught a glimpse of the cloaked figure again, and something in its gaze told me this was only the beginning. As we dashed deeper into the park, I realized I had just unraveled a thread in a much larger tapestry of chaos and there was no way to rewind it. Then, amidst the hurried breaths and fading light, everything went dark as the shadows consumed us. When the darkness fell, it was suffocating, choking every breath. I felt my heart racing as I ran, unsure of where my feet were taking me. The trio around me moved with a purpose, dragging me along as the whispers grew louder, drowning out my thoughts. I stumbled, nearly tripping over a root, but they pulled me up, urgency fueling their movements. "Keep going," the first man urged, his voice steady, but I could hear the tension beneath the surface. I could barely see, but the air felt electric, buzzing with energy as if the very shadows around us were alive. And then, as swiftly as it had enveloped us, the darkness began to lift. We found ourselves in a clearing, bathed in pale moonlight. My breath hitched as I took in the sight before me. A massive stone archway stood tall, intricately carved with symbols that matched those in the journal. "This is it," the second man whispered, awe lacing his voice. "The portal." My heart pounded in my chest, a mix of fear and anticipation. "What do we do now?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "We need to activate it," said the first man. "You're the key." I hesitated, glancing at their faces. They looked desperate, and I could feel the weight of their expectations pressing down on me. "But why me?" I shot back, almost feeling like I was being pushed into a role I never asked for. "It chose you." "Just as it chose the cloaked figure," he replied, pointing toward the shadows. For a fleeting moment, I thought I saw the figure lurking just beyond the trees, but when I blinked, it was gone. Before I could process that, the muffled sounds of footsteps returned from the direction we'd fled. The urgency in the air thickened again. "They're coming," the third man murmured. "You must trust us." I felt the pressure of time slipping away. What did I have to lose? "What do I do?" I asked, my voice steadier this time. "You need to focus," said the second man. "Reach out to it. Feel the energy. You will know what to do." Gathering my courage, I stepped closer to the archway, feeling a pull deep within me. The symbols on the stone seemed to shimmer in the moonlight, alive and waiting. I closed my eyes, breathing deeply, trying to hone in on that energy they spoke of. The world around me faded away, until all that existed was my breath mingling with the whispers of the portal. I reached out a hand, feeling a surge of warmth as it met the smooth stone. My heart thudded louder in my chest, the whispers becoming clearer. They echoed my name, calling me forth. "Open," I murmured, sensing the charge coursing through the arch. A blinding light erupted from the stone, illuminating the forest around us, casting away the shadows. For an instant, everything felt right, and I could almost glimpse the path ahead, a way to break free from this nightmare. The energy swirled around me, wrapping me in a cocoon of warmth. But just as quickly, the sound of panicked shouts pierced through the clearing. The followers, the ones who worshipped the dark, were closing in. "Now!" one of the men urged. The sensation peaked, and without consciously thinking, I thrust my hand forward. The light flared even brighter, consuming everything in an explosion of brightness that sent a shockwave through the air. I could feel the others at my side, united in this moment. Then came the silence. I opened my eyes, blinking against the aftermath of the light. We stood at the threshold of the arch, but things felt different. No dark figures closing in, no frantic footsteps. The night air was still, and a profound calm settled around us. "What just happened?" I breathed, my heart still racing. The first man exhaled sharply. "You did it. You opened it. Is it over? I asked, the reality of everything weighing down on me. Not entirely. The portal is a bridge, but its effects may linger, he warned. You've bound yourself to this truth now. I felt a cold chill creep back in as his words settled. The cloaked figure, its intentions, the whispers, it all felt unresolved, the threads of the story sprawling before me like an unsolved mystery. What about the cloaked figure? I asked, my stomach twisting. What is going to happen now? Silence stretched between us, heavy and suspenseful. They exchanged glances, uncertainty etched on their faces. We need to leave, the second man finally said, looking back toward the way we'd come. There's much more to uncover. Before he could finish, a chilling whisper sliced through the air, unbidden. You cannot escape what has been awakened. I felt the familiar sensation of the shadows creeping back, an unsettling reminder of the danger that still loomed. I looked around, but there was no figure there, just the echo of the voice reverberating in the silence, a haunting promise of things unresolved. And as I stood there, bound to the truth I had unwittingly embraced, I knew this wasn't the end. The mystery lingered, calling me forth into the unknown, leaving a sense of uncertainty that would haunt me long after this night. After all, what awaited me on the other side of the truth was far from clear. As we stepped away from the archway, I felt a new weight settle in my chest. I moved forward with the others, aware that I was forever changed. I just hoped that the next chapter wouldn't cost me everything.